Understanding Anxiety: Causes, Symptoms, and Solutions. Written and published by C.Irmici. Feel free to subscribe for more content. Now let's get into the book. Introduction. What is anxiety? Anxiety is something that touches many of our lives, often in ways that can feel overwhelming and isolating. If you're reading this, you've likely experienced the weight of anxiety yourself or know someone close to you who has. The good news is you're not alone, and there's hope. Anxiety is a natural part of life. It's the body's response to stress, and in small amounts it can be helpful. It keeps us alert, helps us avoid danger, and sometimes even pushes us to perform better. But when anxiety becomes excessive or persistent, it can interfere with our daily lives, relationships, and overall well-being. That's when it shifts from a normal response to something that may need deeper understanding and management. This book is designed to guide you through that journey of understanding. We will explore what anxiety is, why it happens, and how it manifests in both the mind and body. More importantly, we'll also discuss what you can do about it, whether you're looking for medical treatments, holistic approaches, or practical self-help strategies. You'll learn about the different forms of anxiety, from Generalized Anxiety Disorder (GAD) to panic disorder and social anxiety. We'll talk about the common causes, whether it's rooted in your genetic makeup, past experiences, or present circumstances. And we'll dive into the symptoms, both physical and emotional, so you can better recognize when anxiety is affecting you or someone you care about. But this book isn't just about understanding anxiety, it's about finding solutions. Anxiety can make you feel powerless, but there are effective treatments available, and there are things you can do every day to regain control over your life. Whether it's learning to manage your thoughts, practicing relaxation techniques, or seeking professional help, there are many paths to feeling better. Most importantly, this book will be a companion on your journey. We're not here to tell you that your feelings aren't real, or that they're easy to fix. We're here to offer guidance, tools, and hope. Healing from anxiety takes time, but with patience and persistence, it's possible to live a life that feels more balanced, peaceful, and fulfilling. Let's take this step together, because understanding is the first step toward overcoming. Chapter 1. The Science Behind Anxiety. Anxiety can often feel like an invisible force taking over your mind and body. Sometimes, it hits suddenly without warning, and at other times, it builds slowly until it's all you can think about. To understand how anxiety works and why it can have such a strong hold on us, we need to start with the science behind it. Anxiety isn't just in your head. It's a biological response deeply rooted in our bodies. It's important to know that anxiety, at its core, is a survival mechanism. Thousands of years ago, this response helped our ancestors escape danger, stay alert to threats, and protect themselves from harm. This system is still with us today, and while it can still be useful, it sometimes misfires in ways that can make our lives more difficult. The brain and anxiety. At the heart of the anxiety response is a part of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is like a small, powerful alarm system that is constantly scanning for danger. When it detects something that it perceives as a threat, whether it's an actual physical danger or something as subtle as social rejection, it sends signals to your body to prepare for fight or flight. This fight or flight response floods your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate increases, your breathing quickens, and your muscles tense up, all in an effort to help you react to whatever danger you might be facing. This is why anxiety often feels so physical. Your body is preparing to protect itself. For short-term threats, this response can be helpful. But when your amygdala becomes overactive or misinterprets everyday stressors as major dangers, anxiety can take hold in a way that doesn't feel useful. Instead of keeping you safe, it can make you feel stuck, trapped in a constant state of alertness even when no real danger is present. The role of stress hormones. When anxiety becomes chronic, your body is flooded with stress hormones more often than it should be. While these chemicals are helpful in small doses, too much can start to take a toll on your body and mind. High levels of cortisol, for example, can affect everything from your sleep patterns to your immune system, making you feel fatigued and even more stressed. It's a bit like leaving a car running at full throttle for too long. The engine will eventually wear down. Chronic anxiety can make you feel emotionally and physically exhausted, even when you've done nothing to earn that feeling of exhaustion. It's not your fault, it's simply your body reacting to a perceived threat that's no longer useful. Why does this happen? So why does the brain overreact in this way? The answer isn't simple, but there are a few key factors that can contribute to this heightened anxiety response. 1. Genetics. Anxiety often runs in families. If you have a parent or sibling who struggles with anxiety, you're more likely to experience it as well. This doesn't mean you're destined to have anxiety, but it does mean you might be more predisposed to it. 2. Environment. Stressful or traumatic experiences, especially early in life, can wire your brain to be more sensitive to stress. If you've experienced things like bullying, abuse, or even prolonged stress at home or work, your brain may learn to anticipate threats even when there are none. 3. Personality. Some people are naturally more prone to worrying or are more sensitive to stressful situations. Being naturally cautious or highly attuned to your surroundings isn't a bad thing, but in some cases, it can lead to higher anxiety levels. 4. Physical health. Sometimes, anxiety can be linked to underlying physical conditions. Thyroid problems, heart issues, or hormonal imbalances can sometimes exacerbate or trigger anxiety symptoms. This is why it's always a good idea to talk to a doctor if you feel your anxiety is tied to physical symptoms. The link between thoughts and anxiety. It's important to recognize that anxiety isn't just a physical or genetic issue, it's also heavily influenced by our thoughts. The way we interpret situations can play a huge role in how anxious we feel. For example, if you're prone to thinking the worst in any given scenario, your brain will start to respond to even minor stressors as though they are major threats. This is why cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and other talk therapies can be so effective for treating anxiety. By learning to challenge and reframe negative or anxious thoughts, you can start to calm your brain's alarm system and reduce the physical symptoms of anxiety. Why understanding the science can help. You might be wondering, how does knowing all this help me manage my anxiety? Understanding the science behind anxiety can actually be a powerful tool. When you know that your brain is responding to stress in a way that's been hardwired into humans for thousands of years, it can help take away some of the mystery and some of the fear. It can be reassuring to realize that anxiety isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's just your brain trying, sometimes too hard, to protect you. With this understanding, you can start to work on calming that overactive alarm system and finding ways to manage anxiety, instead of letting it control your life. This is just the beginning of your journey toward understanding and overcoming anxiety. In the chapters that follow, we'll explore the different forms of anxiety, what causes them, and most importantly, how you can start to take back control of your mind and body. Chapter 2. Different types of anxiety disorders. Anxiety isn't a one-size-fits-all experience. While most people have moments of worry or fear, those who struggle with anxiety disorders face something more constant and disruptive. These disorders can take many forms, and understanding the different ways anxiety manifests can help you or a loved one identify what might be happening and how to address it. You may have heard of generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, or panic disorder, but each type of anxiety has its own unique challenges. Recognizing the subtle differences can be the first step toward finding the right approach for managing it. Generalized Anxiety Disorder, GAD. Let's start with Generalized Anxiety Disorder, or GAD. If you've ever found yourself worrying about everything from minor daily tasks to far-off future events, and this worry feels impossible to control, you might be dealing with GAD. People with this disorder often describe feeling like their minds are constantly buzzing with what-ifs. Even when there's no immediate problem, their thoughts drift toward all the things that could go wrong. This form of anxiety doesn't come and go. It's a persistent feeling that can last for months, even years. It's not just about one specific issue, it's about a broader, constant state of unease. This can lead to physical symptoms as well, like muscle tension, headaches, or trouble sleeping. Your body is almost always on high alert, even when you're trying to relax. Living with GAD can feel like carrying a heavy backpack full of worry, with each small thought adding to the weight. But once you understand that this isn't something you're choosing to carry, you can start to look for ways to lighten the load. Panic disorder. On the other end of the spectrum is panic disorder. Unlike JD's slow, simmering worry, panic disorder tends to hit suddenly and with overwhelming force. If you've ever had a panic attack, you know how terrifying it can be. Your heart races, your chest feels tight, and you might even think you're having a heart attack or that something is seriously wrong with your body. The key characteristic of panic disorder is not just experiencing panic attacks, but also living in fear of when the next one will come. It's this fear of the attack itself that often leads to more anxiety, creating a vicious cycle. The unpredictability of panic attacks can make people avoid places or situations where they think an attack might happen, whether it's a crowded store, a meeting at work, or even just being alone. Panic attacks are powerful and unsettling, but it's important to remember that while they feel dangerous, they aren't life-threatening. That said, they are very real and can be extremely disruptive. Learning techniques to manage and lessen the impact of panic attacks can help break the cycle of fear and anxiety. Social anxiety disorder. For those with social anxiety disorder, the fear centers around social situations. This isn't just shyness or occasional awkwardness. This is a deep, persistent fear of being judged, embarrassed, or rejected in everyday interactions. If you have social anxiety, the mere thought of speaking in front of a group, attending a party, or even making small talk can trigger intense worry. People with social anxiety might avoid social events altogether or endure them with overwhelming dread. They often feel as if they are being constantly watched and evaluated by others, and the fear of doing something wrong can paralyze them. Even after an event is over, they might replay the situation in their minds, scrutinizing every word or action, convinced they've made a mistake. This disorder can make it hard to form or maintain relationships, leading to feelings of loneliness or isolation. But the good news is that with the right support, those with social anxiety can begin to slowly rebuild confidence and find ways to interact without as much fear. Other forms of anxiety. Beyond these more common types, there are other, less discussed forms of anxiety that people may experience. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, for instance, is characterized by intrusive thoughts and the need to perform certain behaviors or rituals to ease anxiety. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, on the other hand, develops after a traumatic event and can cause flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety triggered by reminders of that event. Even more specific is phobia-related anxiety, where a person has an intense fear of a particular object or situation. While most people might feel a bit uneasy around spiders or heights, those with phobias experience extreme fear that can interfere with daily life. A person with a phobia might go out of their way to avoid situations where they might encounter the source of their fear, leading to a more limited way of living. What's important to note here is that while these disorders are distinct, they often share common threads. Many people experience more than one type of anxiety at the same time, and their experiences may shift between different forms over time. Anxiety doesn't always fit neatly into one category, and that's okay. What matters most is recognizing that these feelings are valid, and there are ways to address them. Whether you relate to the constant worry of GAD, the sharp panic of an attack, or the social discomfort of anxiety in crowds, it's important to understand that these are all treatable. The first step is understanding what you're dealing with so that you can find the right tools to manage it. In the chapters ahead, we'll look at what causes these disorders and dive deeper into the ways you can regain control over them. Anxiety may be part of your life right now, but it doesn't have to define your future. Chapter 3: Common Causes of Anxiety. Anxiety often feels like it comes out of nowhere, but in reality, it's usually the result of a combination of factors. Sometimes these causes are clear, like a stressful job or a major life change, but at other times the roots of anxiety run deeper, and it can be harder to pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. Understanding the common causes of anxiety can help you make sense of why it happens and what you can do to address it. While anxiety can seem like a mysterious, overwhelming force, it's often the product of both biological and environmental influences. Let's explore some of these causes and how they might be playing a role in your life. Genetics, the role of family history. If you've ever wondered why anxiety seems to run in families, you're not alone. Research has shown that genetics can play a significant role in the development of anxiety disorders. If your parents or siblings struggle with anxiety, you may be more likely to experience it as well. This doesn't mean anxiety is inevitable, but it does suggest that some people are more biologically predisposed to it. The way our brains are wired is passed down from generation to generation, and sometimes that wiring includes an overactive stress response. For example, if your family has a history of being particularly cautious or sensitive to stress, those traits might have been inherited, making you more prone to anxiety. But remember, genes are not destiny. Just because you may have a genetic predisposition doesn't mean you can't take steps to manage and reduce anxiety. Understanding that genetics play a role is just one piece of the puzzle, and it can help you realize that anxiety is not your fault. It's part of your biology but not something you're powerless to change. Environmental factors. The impact of life experiences. While genetics lay the foundation, our environment often plays a major role in whether or not anxiety takes hold. The experiences we have, especially in childhood, can shape how we respond to stress as adults. Traumatic or stressful events such as the loss of a loved one, moving to a new place, or enduring abuse or neglect, can trigger anxiety later in life. For example, people who grew up in environments where they felt unsafe or unsupported may develop a heightened sense of vigilance as a way to protect themselves. This constant state of alertness, while useful in dangerous situations, can become a source of anxiety when the perceived threats no longer exist. Even everyday stressors like a demanding job, financial worries, or relationship difficulties can accumulate over time, wearing down your ability to cope. When stress becomes chronic, your brain and body may start to treat every situation as if it's a potential danger, leading to anxiety that feels disproportionate to the situation at hand. The environment isn't just about what happens to us directly, though. It's also about what we observe. For instance, growing up around anxious parents or caregivers can teach us to be fearful or worried, even if we haven't experienced the same stressors they did. We learn how to handle anxiety by watching those around us. Personality, how we're wired to respond. Some people are naturally more sensitive to their environment and emotions, and this can make them more prone to anxiety. This doesn't mean that there's something wrong with those who are more sensitive. Quite the opposite, in fact. Being attuned to your surroundings and emotions can be a strength in many ways, but it can also make you more vulnerable to anxiety when stressors arise. If you've ever felt like you're more affected by things that others seem to shrug off, this could be a part of your personality that leans toward anxious responses. People who are naturally introspective or who tend to overthink situations may find themselves caught in cycles of worry more easily. This isn't about weakness. It's about how some minds work more actively to process potential threats or outcomes, even when the situation doesn't warrant it. Additionally, perfectionists or those who are particularly self-critical may struggle with anxiety because they set such high standards for themselves. The fear of failure or making mistakes can lead to constant stress, which in turn feeds into feelings of anxiety. Physical health, the body-mind connection. Our physical health and our mental health are deeply interconnected. Sometimes anxiety can be triggered or worsened by underlying health conditions. For example, thyroid issues, heart disease, or hormonal imbalances can all contribute to heightened feelings of anxiety. It's not uncommon for people with chronic health conditions to experience anxiety as part of their struggle. When your body isn't functioning at its best, it can send signals to the brain that something is wrong, even if the issue is physical rather than emotional. The uncertainty and fear that come with health problems can easily turn into anxiety, especially if the condition is ongoing. Sleep plays a crucial role here as well. Sleep deprivation can severely impact how we manage stress and anxiety. A tired brain is less capable of coping with challenges, which can make even minor problems feel like huge threats. If you're not getting enough sleep, or if your sleep is frequently interrupted by worry, you may find your anxiety levels climbing. The role of major life changes. Life is full of changes, and even positive ones can cause anxiety. Moving to a new city, starting a new job, getting married, or becoming a parent are all major transitions that can disrupt your sense of stability. When life changes rapidly, it's normal to feel anxious about the unknown or the adjustments you'll need to make. On the other hand, negative changes like losing a job, going through a breakup, or experiencing the death of a loved one can bring anxiety into sharper focus. These events often lead to feelings of loss, uncertainty, and insecurity, all of which can fuel anxiety. It's during these times that many people feel their anxiety spikes, even if they've never struggled with it before. These major life events don't have to be catastrophic to cause anxiety, though. Sometimes even small changes in routine or lifestyle can disrupt your sense of normalcy, leading to feelings of unease or apprehension. The key takeaway here is that anxiety is often the result of a combination of factors: genetics, environment, personality, health, and life changes. It's not a simple condition with one cause, and that's why it affects people in different ways. By recognizing the various influences that contribute to anxiety, you can begin to understand why it happens and start to work on strategies to manage it. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to recognize the symptoms of anxiety in both the body and mind, and what to do when these signs become overwhelming. Understanding the causes is the first step, but knowing how anxiety shows up in your life is just as important in finding ways to cope. Chapter 4. Recognizing anxiety symptoms. Anxiety can show up in so many different ways that it's sometimes hard to recognize when it's happening. For some, it feels like a constant hum in the background of life, while for others, it can hit like a sudden wave of panic. One of the first steps toward managing anxiety is learning to recognize how it shows up in your body and mind. By becoming more aware of the signs, you can take steps to address them early before they become overwhelming. Physical symptoms. Anxiety in the body. Anxiety doesn't just exist in your thoughts, it has very real physical effects on your body. In fact, many people first notice anxiety through physical symptoms before they even realize their mind is racing. Have you ever felt your heart pounding or your breath quickening when you're anxious? That's your body responding to what it perceives as a threat. Even though there may be no immediate danger, your brain's fight or flight system is activated, preparing your body to either defend itself or escape. This is a natural, evolutionary response, but when it happens too often or at inappropriate times, it can leave you feeling exhausted or on edge. Some of the most common physical symptoms of anxiety include racing heart. You may feel like your heart is beating much faster than normal even if you're sitting still. This is because anxiety signals your body to pump more blood in case you need to act quickly. Shortness of breath. Many people feel like they can't catch their breath when they're anxious, as if they're struggling to get enough air. This can sometimes be mistaken for a more serious health problem, which only adds to the worry. Muscle tension. Anxiety often causes your muscles to tighten, especially around the shoulders, neck, and jaw. This tension can lead to headaches, back pain, or a general sense of discomfort. Sweating. You might notice that your palms become sweaty, or you feel hot and clammy even when you're not physically exerting yourself. Dizziness or lightheadedness. Anxiety can cause a drop in blood pressure, leading to feelings of dizziness or lightheadedness, especially during a panic attack. Nausea or digestive issues. Your gut and your brain are closely connected. Anxiety can disrupt digestion, causing stomach aches, nausea, or even diarrhea. This is why people often feel butterflies in their stomach when they're anxious. These physical symptoms can be alarming, especially if they come on suddenly. It's easy to mistake them for something more serious like a heart problem or respiratory issue, but they are usually just your body reacting to anxiety. While uncomfortable, these sensations are not dangerous. The key is learning to recognize them as signs of anxiety rather than immediate physical threats. Emotional symptoms. Anxiety in the mind. Anxiety doesn't just affect your body, it can also take a toll on your emotional well-being. One of the hallmark signs of anxiety is excessive worrying. You might find yourself fixating on worst-case scenarios or constantly thinking about things that could go wrong, even in situations where the risk is minimal. You may also experience a sense of restlessness, as if you can't fully relax or let go of tension. Even when you're sitting still, your mind may be racing with thoughts or you might feel a nagging sense of unease. This emotional restlessness can make it hard to concentrate or enjoy activities you would normally find pleasurable. Another common emotional symptom of anxiety is irritability. When you're anxious, your brain is constantly working overtime, trying to assess and respond to potential threats. This can leave you feeling frazzled and on edge, making it harder to be patient or calm in everyday situations. Small things that normally wouldn't bother you, like a delayed response from a friend or a slight change in plans, can suddenly feel overwhelming. Fear is also a significant part of anxiety, especially when it becomes linked to specific situations or triggers. If you have social anxiety, for example, the thought of attending a social event might fill you with dread, even if you rationally know there's nothing to be afraid of. Fear can feel like it's taking over your mind, even when you try to reassure yourself that everything is fine. And then there's the feeling of being out of control. Anxiety can sometimes make it feel like your thoughts are spiraling, and no matter how hard you try, you can't stop worrying. This sense of helplessness can fuel even more anxiety, creating a cycle that's hard to break. Cognitive symptoms: how anxiety affects thinking. Anxiety doesn't just change how you feel emotionally, it can also affect how you think. One of the most common cognitive symptoms is overthinking. You might find yourself stuck in loops of thought, analyzing and reanalyzing situations to the point of exhaustion. Even small decisions like choosing what to wear or what to say in a conversation can become sources of stress as your mind replays different scenarios and outcomes. You may also experience racing thoughts, where your brain jumps from one worry to the next without giving you time to process or find solutions. This can make it hard to focus on tasks or relax, as your mind is constantly darting between different concerns. In some cases, anxiety can cause catastrophic thinking, where your mind goes straight to the worst possible outcome. For instance, if you're waiting for an important email, your mind might immediately jump to the conclusion that something bad has happened if you don't get a response right away. These exaggerated thoughts often feed into the anxiety, making it feel even more intense. Another common cognitive symptom is difficulty concentrating. Anxiety consumes a lot of mental energy, and when your brain is busy worrying, it can be hard to focus on anything else. You might notice that your attention drifts during conversations or that you have trouble finishing tasks at work or school. This can lead to frustration as it feels like your mind is constantly getting in the way of your ability to be productive. Behavioral symptoms: how anxiety changes actions. When anxiety becomes overwhelming, it can also start to influence your behavior. You might find yourself avoiding certain situations or activities because they trigger anxious feelings. This can include things like skipping social events, avoiding public speaking, or even staying away from places that feel too crowded or unfamiliar. Procrastination is another common behavior linked to anxiety. When you're anxious about a task, whether it's because of fear of failure or perfectionism, it can feel easier to put it off. The more you avoid it, though, the more the anxiety builds, leading to a cycle of delay and stress. In some cases, anxiety can lead to compulsive behaviors. These are actions that you feel compelled to do in order to ease anxiety, even if they don't logically solve the problem. For example, people with obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, might engage in repetitive actions like washing their hands or checking things multiple times to alleviate their anxiety. While these behaviors may provide temporary relief, they often end up reinforcing the anxiety in the long run. By learning to recognize these symptoms, whether they're physical, emotional, cognitive, or behavioral, you can start to develop a greater awareness of how anxiety shows up in your life. The more you understand these signs, the better equipped you'll be to address them. In the next chapter, we'll explore how anxiety impacts daily life and how to start taking steps toward managing its effects. Chapter 5: The Impact of Anxiety on Daily Life. Anxiety doesn't just exist in moments of stress or worry, it can seep into almost every part of daily life. From how you interact with others to how you perform at work or even how you experience your own thoughts, anxiety can cast a long shadow. The effects of anxiety are often subtle at first, but over time they can build up, making even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Understanding how anxiety influences your daily routines, relationships, and personal well-being is crucial in finding ways to manage it. This chapter will explore how anxiety affects different aspects of life and offer some insight into how it can be addressed. Anxiety at work or school. One of the most common places where anxiety makes its presence known is at work or school. Whether it's worrying about performance, deadlines, or social interactions, anxiety can turn the daily grind into a source of constant stress. For some people, the pressure to meet high expectations can lead to feelings of inadequacy or fear of failure. For others, Anxiety might stem from the uncertainty of whether they're doing things right or from navigating the complex social dynamics of a workplace or classroom. At work, anxiety can manifest in different ways. You might find yourself procrastinating on important tasks because you're too anxious about starting them. The fear of making mistakes can become paralyzing, leading to delays that only increase your stress. Alternatively, you might find that you overcompensate for your anxiety by working excessively hard, staying late, taking on extra responsibilities, or pushing yourself beyond healthy limits in an effort to feel secure or in control. Social anxiety in the workplace can also make meetings, presentations, or even casual conversations feel daunting. You might worry about how you're being perceived by coworkers or supervisors, replaying interactions in your mind long after they've happened. This can make it difficult to fully engage with your work, as a significant portion of your mental energy is focused on managing anxiety rather than the task at hand. At school, the pressure to perform academically or socially can cause similar stress. Students with anxiety often feel overwhelmed by exams, projects, or the social intricacies of interacting with peers. The fear of being judged or not living up to expectations can lead to avoidance behaviors, like skipping classes, not participating in group work, or procrastinating on assignments. Over time, this anxiety can snowball, making academic success feel out of reach and contributing to a cycle of stress and avoidance. The impact on relationships. Anxiety doesn't just affect how you feel internally, it can also change the way you interact with the people around you. Relationships, whether they're romantic, familial, or friendships, can be especially challenging when anxiety is involved. The constant worry about how others see you or whether you're doing things right can create distance, even when you're trying to stay connected. In romantic relationships, anxiety can show up as insecurity or fear of rejection. You might constantly worry about whether your partner is happy or whether you've done something wrong, even when there's no evidence to support those fears. This can lead to behaviors like seeking reassurance, overanalyzing interactions, or withdrawing emotionally to avoid potential hurt. Over time, these patterns can strain the relationship, as your anxiety might make it hard for your partner to understand what's really going on. Friendships can also be affected by anxiety. The fear of being a burden or of saying something wrong can make socializing feel like a challenge. You might avoid reaching out to friends or cancel plans at the last minute because your anxiety feels too overwhelming. While you may deeply care about your friends, anxiety can create a barrier that makes it harder to maintain close connections. Family dynamics can also be complicated by anxiety, especially if you've grown up in an environment where mental health wasn't openly discussed. You might feel pressure to keep your anxiety hidden from family members, fearing they won't understand or that you'll be judged. Alternatively, if you've grown up in a family where anxiety is prevalent, you may find that your own anxiety is amplified by the stress and expectations around you. It's important to recognize that anxiety in relationships is not a reflection of how much you care about the people in your life. It's a reflection of how deeply anxiety can influence your thoughts and behaviors. By becoming more aware of how anxiety affects your relationships, you can start to take steps to communicate more openly and find ways to manage these feelings in a healthy way. Physical health and well-being. Anxiety doesn't just live in your mind, it has a profound effect on your physical health as well. As mentioned in previous chapters, the constant activation of your body's stress response can lead to physical symptoms like headaches, muscle tension, and digestive problems. Over time, these symptoms can become chronic, making it feel like anxiety is taking a toll on your entire body. One of the most common ways anxiety affects physical health is through sleep disruption. Whether it's trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or waking up feeling unrest, anxiety can make it difficult to get the rest you need. You might find your mind racing at night, replaying events from the day or worrying about tomorrow. The more anxious you feel, the harder it becomes to relax and drift off to sleep. This can create a vicious cycle where lack of sleep makes your anxiety worse, and the anxiety then makes it even harder to sleep. Over time, chronic anxiety can also affect your immune system, leaving you more susceptible to colds, infections, or other illnesses. The constant presence of stress hormones in your body can weaken your immune response, making it harder for your body to fight off illness. This is why people with high levels of anxiety often report feeling physically drained or getting sick more often than usual. The link between anxiety and diet is another area where anxiety can impact physical well-being. Some people with anxiety may lose their appetite or feel nauseous, while others may turn to food as a way to cope with stress, leading to unhealthy eating patterns. Both under- and overeating can be problematic and might contribute to feelings of guilt or shame, further feeding into the cycle of anxiety. Day-to-day functioning. One of the hardest parts of living with anxiety is how it can affect your ability to handle day-to-day tasks. Even simple activities, like grocery shopping, driving, or running errands, can feel daunting when anxiety is present. You might find yourself avoiding these tasks or pushing them off, only to feel even more anxious about them later. In some cases, anxiety can make you feel like you're living in survival mode, where all your energy is spent just trying to get through the day. This can lead to feelings of burnout, as the mental load of constant worry becomes too much to bear. You might notice that your focus and productivity suffer as a result, leaving you feeling frustrated and defeated. Anxiety can also take away from your ability to enjoy life's small moments. Activities that once brought you joy, like spending time with loved ones, engaging in hobbies, or even just relaxing, can feel overshadowed by worry. It's as if anxiety becomes a background noise that never fully goes away, making it hard to fully engage in the present moment. Learning to manage the impact. The impact of anxiety on daily life is significant, but it's important to remember that it's not insurmountable. With the right strategies and support, it's possible to regain a sense of balance and control. The first step is acknowledging how anxiety shows up in your life, whether it's through work stress, relationship challenges, or physical symptoms. In the next chapter, we'll explore the medical treatments available for anxiety, including therapy, medication, and other professional interventions. These tools can be life-changing, offering new ways to cope with anxiety and lessen its impact on daily life. Chapter 6. Medical treatments for anxiety. When anxiety begins to interfere with daily life, it's essential to know that help is available. Many people feel overwhelmed by their anxiety, believing it's something they have to manage alone. But the truth is, there are several effective treatments that can alleviate the symptoms and help you regain control over your life. Medical interventions, especially when combined with other approaches, can provide much-needed relief and open the door to a healthier, more balanced way of living. Medical treatments for anxiety are not about fixing you, because you're not broken. They're about offering support to help your mind and body manage the stressors that have become too much to handle on their own. Whether through therapy, medication, or a combination of both, treatment provides the tools necessary to navigate life without being constantly overwhelmed by worry or fear. Therapy, understanding and untangling anxiety. One of the most widely recommended treatments for anxiety is therapy, particularly talk therapy. At its core, therapy is a way to explore your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with a trained professional who can guide you toward understanding and coping with anxiety in healthier ways. There are many types of therapy, but some are especially effective for treating anxiety disorders. One of the most common approaches is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. This type of therapy focuses on the relationship between your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The idea behind CBT is that by changing the way you think about certain situations, you can change how you feel and act. For instance, if you tend to think about the worst-case scenario in any situation, CBT helps you challenge those thoughts, encouraging you to replace them with more realistic, balanced perspectives. CBT isn't about denying or ignoring anxious thoughts. It's about recognizing when your brain is amplifying fears unnecessarily and learning how to respond to those thoughts in a healthier way. Over time, this process can help reduce the frequency and intensity of anxious episodes, giving you a greater sense of control over your mind. Another beneficial therapy for anxiety is exposure therapy, often used for people with specific phobias or panic disorders. Exposure therapy involves gradually confronting the situations or triggers that cause anxiety, under the guidance of a therapist. By facing these fears in a controlled and supportive environment, your brain learns that the feared outcome is less likely or less harmful than it initially seemed. Over time, the fear associated with these triggers diminishes, and you're able to function more freely. In some cases, a therapist may use mindfulness-based therapies to help with anxiety. Mindfulness encourages you to focus on the present moment without judgment. Anxiety often thrives when we are stuck in thoughts about the future, what might go wrong, what we should have done differently, or how others might perceive us. Mindfulness teaches you to pull your attention back to the present, helping you become more aware of your anxious thoughts without getting swept away by them. It's a practice that helps break the cycle of worry by anchoring you in the here and now. Medication, restoring balance. For some people, therapy alone isn't enough to manage anxiety, especially when the symptoms are severe or persistent. In these cases, medication can be an effective tool to help balance the chemicals in the brain that contribute to anxiety. The idea of taking medication for mental health can be intimidating for some, but it's important to view it as one part of a larger strategy for managing anxiety. Medications prescribed for anxiety are designed to regulate the levels of neurotransmitters in the brain, chemicals like serotonin and dopamine that affect mood and stress response. When these chemicals are imbalanced, anxiety can become overwhelming. Medication helps restore that balance, allowing your brain to function more effectively. The most commonly prescribed medications for anxiety are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, such as sertraline or fluoxetine. These medications work by increasing the availability of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood and anxiety. While SSRIs are not a quick fix, they can reduce anxiety over time, typically after a few weeks of consistent use. Benzodiazepines, another class of medication, are sometimes prescribed for short-term relief from acute anxiety or panic attacks. These medications act quickly to calm the nervous system and can be effective in reducing the immediate symptoms of anxiety. However, due to their potential for dependency, they are usually prescribed for short periods and are not considered a long-term solution. Another option for treating anxiety is beta blockers, often used to manage the physical symptoms of anxiety, like a racing heart or shaking hands. These medications don't address the emotional side of anxiety, but they can be helpful in situations where physical symptoms are particularly distressing, such as before public speaking or during moments of high stress. Medication, when prescribed and monitored by a doctor, can be a life-changing tool for many people. It's important to remember, though, that medication is not a cure for anxiety. Instead, it's a way to help manage symptoms so that you can better engage in therapy, self-help techniques, and daily life without being overwhelmed by fear or worry. Finding the right combination. Every person's experience with anxiety is different, which means that finding the right treatment can take time. For some, therapy alone is enough to manage symptoms, while others might find that a combination of therapy and medication works best. The most important thing is to keep an open mind and work closely with your healthcare provider to find the approach that's right for you. It's also worth noting that many people benefit from integrating holistic approaches alongside medical treatment. Mindfulness practices, yoga, or even physical exercise can complement therapy and medication, helping to reduce anxiety and promote overall well-being. These practices work by calming the body's stress response and promoting relaxation, offering additional tools to manage anxiety day to day. Treatment for anxiety is not about eliminating anxiety altogether, it's about learning how to live with it in a way that allows you to thrive. With the right combination of professional support, medication, and self-care, it's possible to reduce the impact of anxiety and regain control over your life. In the next chapter, we'll explore natural and holistic approaches to managing anxiety, focusing on how lifestyle changes and mindful practices can support long-term emotional well-being. Chapter 7: Natural and Holistic Approaches. When it comes to managing anxiety, medical treatments like therapy and medication are powerful tools, but they aren't the only options. For many, incorporating natural and holistic approaches into their routine can provide additional relief, helping to create a sense of balance and calm. These methods focus on nurturing the mind and body together, addressing the root causes of anxiety, and supporting overall well-being. Holistic approaches to anxiety often involve lifestyle changes, mindful practices, and techniques that encourage relaxation and stress reduction. While these strategies might not replace medical treatments, they can be incredibly effective when used alongside them, offering a way to manage anxiety in a more sustainable, day-to-day manner. Mindfulness and meditation. Cultivating presence. One of the most well-known holistic approaches for managing anxiety is mindfulness. At its core, mindfulness is about being fully present in the moment without judgment. This might sound simple, but in practice, it can be transformative. Anxiety often pulls you into the future, filling your mind with worries about what might happen or how things could go wrong. Mindfulness encourages you to bring your attention back to the present moment, helping to break the cycle of anxious thoughts. Mindfulness can be practiced in many different ways, but one of the most effective methods is meditation. In a typical mindfulness meditation session, you sit quietly and focus on your breathing, the sensations in your body, or even the sounds around you. When your mind starts to wander, as it naturally will, you gently bring your focus back to the present moment. This practice teaches your brain a new way to respond to anxiety. Instead of getting swept away by thoughts of the future or what you can't control, mindfulness meditation helps you learn to observe your thoughts without attaching fear or judgment to them. Over time, this can reduce the intensity of anxious thoughts and help you stay grounded, even in stressful situations. Regular meditation, even just for a few minutes a day, can have long-lasting effects on anxiety. Studies have shown that mindfulness practices can actually change the way your brain processes stress, helping to lower your overall anxiety levels. It's not about pushing anxiety away, but about changing your relationship with it, allowing you to observe your thoughts without letting them control you. Breathing techniques, a path to calm. Breathing is something we all do automatically, but when anxiety strikes, our breath often becomes shallow and rapid, fueling the body's stress response. Learning to control your breathing can be a simple yet powerful tool for calming anxiety. Deep breathing exercises help activate the body's relaxation response, signaling to your brain that it's time to calm down. One popular technique is called diaphragmatic breathing, also known as belly breathing. Here's how it works. You breathe in deeply through your nose, allowing your belly to rise as you fill your lungs. Then you slowly exhale through your mouth, letting the air flow out fully. This kind of breathing encourages your body to shift from its anxious, fight or flight mode to a more relaxed state. Another effective technique is 4-7-8 breathing, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold your breath for 7 counts, and then exhale slowly for 8 counts. This controlled breathing pattern helps slow your heart rate and quiet the mind, making it especially useful during moments of acute anxiety. These breathing exercises are not just quick fixes. They can also be used as part of a daily routine to help reduce overall anxiety levels. Practicing them regularly can help you become more in tune with your body's stress signals, allowing you to intervene before anxiety spirals out of control. Yoga, moving toward balance. For centuries, yoga has been used as a way to unite the mind and body, promoting physical strength, flexibility, and inner peace. For those struggling with anxiety, yoga can be a powerful tool to help reduce stress, calm the nervous system, and create a sense of balance. The practice of yoga combines physical postures, asanas, controlled breathing, pranayama, and meditation. This combination is particularly effective for anxiety because it engages both the mind and body, helping to release tension and create a state of relaxation. The physical movements in yoga help to stretch and strengthen the body, which can relieve the muscle tension often associated with anxiety. Meanwhile, the focus on breathing helps to calm the mind and activate the body's relaxation response. In addition to the physical benefits, yoga encourages mindfulness and presence, much like meditation. During a yoga practice, you're encouraged to focus on your breath and the sensations in your body, which can help anchor you in the present moment and quiet anxious thoughts. The more you practice, the more yoga becomes a moving meditation, where each movement flows with your breath, creating a sense of calm and unity within yourself. Regular yoga practice has been shown to lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol, improve mood, and reduce symptoms of anxiety. Whether it's a vigorous flow to release pent-up energy or a slow, restorative practice to encourage deep relaxation, yoga offers something for everyone. Diet and nutrition, feeding your mind and body. What you eat can have a significant impact on how you feel, and that includes your mental health. While there's no specific anxiety diet, certain foods and nutrients can support your brain's ability to manage stress and anxiety. Whole foods rich in vitamins, minerals, and healthy fats can help nourish your brain and support emotional well-being. Foods high in omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds are known to support brain health and may help reduce anxiety. Similarly, foods that are high in antioxidants, like leafy greens, berries, and nuts, can help combat the oxidative stress that is linked to anxiety. It's also important to be mindful of how caffeine and sugar affect your body. While a cup of coffee or a sweet treat might give you a quick boost of energy, they can also spike your anxiety levels, especially if you're already feeling on edge. Too much caffeine can trigger symptoms like a racing heart and jitteriness, which can mimic the physical sensations of anxiety and make it harder to stay calm. In contrast, staying hydrated and choosing balanced meals that include plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins can help stabilize your mood and energy levels throughout the day, reducing the likelihood of anxiety spikes. Nature and exercise, grounding and releasing energy. Spending time in nature is one of the simplest and most effective ways to reduce anxiety. Nature has a calming effect on the mind and body, and being outdoors can help you reconnect with the present moment in a way that's both grounding and rejuvenating. Whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the woods, or simply sitting in your garden, nature offers a peaceful escape from the stress of daily life. Physical exercise in general is another essential tool for managing anxiety. When you move your body, you release endorphins, your body's natural feel-good chemicals, which help to improve mood and reduce stress. Exercise also helps burn off the excess adrenaline that anxiety creates, providing a natural way to release pent-up energy and tension. Regular exercise doesn't have to be intense or time-consuming. Even a short walk, stretching, or a few minutes of light movement each day can help reduce anxiety and improve your overall sense of well-being. The key is to find a type of movement that feels enjoyable and sustainable, so it becomes a natural part of your routine. The power of routine and self-care. Holistic approaches to anxiety often center around creating a sense of stability and balance in daily life. Establishing a regular routine can provide structure and predictability, which helps reduce feelings of overwhelm and uncertainty. Whether it's maintaining a consistent sleep schedule, setting aside time for meditation, or committing to a healthy diet, these small habits can make a big difference in how you manage anxiety. Self-care is about more than just relaxation. It's about making time to nurture your mental, emotional, and physical health. This might involve setting boundaries, practicing kindness toward yourself, or simply taking a break when you need it. Over time, these acts of self-care can help create a foundation of resilience, allowing you to face anxiety with greater strength and calm. In the next chapter, we'll explore self-help techniques and coping strategies that you can implement in your everyday life to better manage anxiety on a personal level. Chapter 8: Self-help techniques and coping strategies. Living with anxiety can sometimes feel like a constant battle, but there are numerous self-help techniques and coping strategies that can empower you to regain control. These techniques, when practiced regularly, can help reduce the intensity of anxiety and make it more manageable, even on the most challenging days. Self-help strategies are all about taking small, actionable steps to address anxiety as it arises. They don't require professional intervention, but they can complement medical treatments and holistic approaches beautifully. The key to self-help is consistency and patience. The more you incorporate these strategies into your daily routine, the more natural they become, helping you build resilience over time. Building a routine to anchor your day. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to manage anxiety is to create a daily routine. Anxiety often thrives in moments of unpredictability or chaos. When you don't know what's coming next, your brain can easily spiral into worry or fear. Establishing a routine gives your day structure and predictability, creating a sense of stability that can calm the mind. Your routine doesn't need to be rigid or elaborate, but having a basic framework for your day can make a big difference. Start by setting regular wake-up and sleep times. This consistency helps regulate your body's natural rhythms, improving your mood and energy levels. If possible, incorporate specific times for meals, work, exercise, and relaxation throughout the day. Creating a bedtime routine is particularly helpful for those who struggle with anxiety-related insomnia. A calming ritual, such as reading, stretching, or practicing deep breathing, can signal to your body that it's time to wind down, making it easier to fall asleep. Over time, routines create a safe structure that makes navigating the day less overwhelming. Challenging negative thoughts. Cognitive restructuring. Anxiety has a way of distorting your thoughts, often pulling you into worst-case scenarios or catastrophizing about the future. One of the most powerful self-help techniques is learning to challenge these negative thoughts through a process called cognitive restructuring. The idea behind cognitive restructuring is that by questioning the accuracy of your anxious thoughts, you can start to change how you respond to them. For example, if you're worrying about an upcoming presentation at work, your anxiety might convince you that you're going to fail and embarrass yourself. Cognitive restructuring encourages you to ask, what evidence do I have that this will happen? Have I succeeded in similar situations before? What's the worst that could realistically happen and how would I handle it? By challenging your automatic anxious thoughts, you can often find more balanced, realistic perspectives. This doesn't mean dismissing your feelings, it's about finding more constructive ways to respond to them. Over time, this practice helps reduce the intensity of anxious thoughts and allows you to approach stressful situations with greater clarity and calm. Practicing grounding techniques. When anxiety hits, it can feel like your mind is racing out of control. Grounding techniques are a powerful way to bring yourself back into the present moment, breaking the cycle of anxious thoughts. Grounding works by shifting your focus away from your worries and into your immediate surroundings, helping you feel more connected to the present. One simple but effective grounding exercise is the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. In this practice, you focus on your 5 senses to bring your attention back to the moment. 5. Name 5 things you can see around you. 4. Name 4 things you can touch. 3. Name 3 things you can hear. 2. Name 2 things you can smell. 1. Name 1 thing you can taste. This technique helps interrupt the spiral of anxiety by engaging your senses, grounding you in the physical world. It's especially useful during moments of acute stress or panic, but it can also be practiced regularly to strengthen your connection to the present. Another grounding exercise is to focus on your breath. When anxiety rises, your breathing often becomes shallow and quick, which can intensify feelings of panic. By consciously slowing your breath, you can calm your body and signal to your brain that it's safe to relax. Try placing your hand on your belly, taking slow, deep breaths in through your nose, and exhaling gently through your mouth. Focus on the sensation of your belly rising and falling with each breath. This simple action can bring a sense of calm to anxious moments. Embracing physical movement. Anxiety can cause tension to build up in the body, and one of the best ways to release that tension is through physical movement. Whether it's a brisk walk, a yoga session, or a few minutes of stretching, movement helps burn off the excess adrenaline that anxiety generates. Regular physical activity has been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety by releasing endorphins, the body's natural mood elevators. Exercise also provides a healthy outlet for the nervous energy that anxiety often creates, helping you feel more grounded and less overwhelmed. You don't need to commit to intense workouts to see the benefits. Something as simple as taking a short walk outside can make a big difference. Nature in particular has a calming effect on the mind, so whenever possible, try to spend time outdoors, whether it's walking in a park, sitting by a tree, or simply breathing in fresh air. For those days when you're feeling too anxious to move, start small. Even gentle movements like stretching or deep breathing can help release tension and ease your mind. The key is to move in a way that feels comfortable and sustainable for you. Setting boundaries and practicing self-compassion. Anxiety can sometimes make you feel like you need to do everything, be everything, and never disappoint anyone. This pressure can be overwhelming, leading to burnout and more anxiety. One important self-help strategy is learning to set boundaries and practice self-compassion. Setting boundaries means being honest with yourself and others about your limits. It's okay to say no when you're feeling overwhelmed, and it's okay to prioritize your mental health over obligations that cause stress. This might mean limiting your workload, stepping back from social events, or carving out time for yourself each day to recharge. Setting boundaries is not a sign of weakness, it's a necessary part of self-care. Practicing self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend. When anxiety strikes, it's easy to be hard on yourself, thinking, "Why can't I handle this better?" or "I shouldn't be feeling this way." But self-compassion encourages you to accept your feelings without judgment. It's okay to have anxious moments. It's okay to take time to recover. You are doing the best you can, and that's enough. By practicing self-compassion, you create space for healing and growth. Instead of criticizing yourself for feeling anxious, you can approach your anxiety with empathy and patience, which in turn makes it easier to manage. Journaling, putting thoughts on paper. When anxiety is swirling in your mind, it can help to get those thoughts out of your head and onto paper. Journaling is a simple yet powerful way to process your emotions and gain clarity on what's really going on inside. There's no right or wrong way to journal. You can write freely about your thoughts and feelings, or you can use prompts like, "What am I worried about today?" or "What's one thing I can do to feel better right now?" The act of writing helps you organize your thoughts, and it can often lead to insights that you might not have realized otherwise. Journaling can also be a place to practice gratitude. When anxiety makes everything feel overwhelming, taking a moment to write down a few things you're grateful for can shift your perspective. Even small things like a kind word from a friend or a beautiful sunset can remind you that not everything is stressful or scary. Self-help techniques for managing anxiety are all about finding what works best for you. Whether it's building a routine, challenging negative thoughts, practicing mindfulness, or simply moving your body, these strategies can help you regain control and create a sense of peace, even on the toughest days. Chapter 9. Supporting someone with anxiety. When someone you care about is struggling with anxiety, it can be difficult to know how to help. Anxiety can be invisible, yet its effects are often very real and profound. Watching a friend, family member, or partner go through it might leave you feeling helpless, unsure of what to say or do. The good news is you don't have to have all the answers to make a difference. Simply being there with empathy, patience, and understanding can provide tremendous support. Helping someone with anxiety involves learning to listen without judgment, offering reassurance when needed, and respecting their boundaries. It's also about equipping yourself with the knowledge to understand what they're going through so you can be a steady presence in their life without overwhelming them or yourself. Understanding their experience. The first step in supporting someone with anxiety is understanding that anxiety isn't something they can simply snap out of. It's not a choice or a weakness. Anxiety disorders are real, complex conditions that often involve deep-rooted fears, overactive thoughts, and physical symptoms. For those who haven't experienced anxiety firsthand, it can be tempting to offer quick fixes or advice, but what your loved one really needs is compassion and patience. Take time to educate yourself about anxiety. Learning the basics, how anxiety affects the brain, common symptoms, and possible triggers, will help you better understand what your loved one is going through. By showing that you've taken the time to learn, you communicate that their experience is real and that you're genuinely interested in supporting them. Remember, everyone's experience with anxiety is unique. What helps one person may not help another, so be open to listening and learning directly from your loved one about what they need. The power of listening without judgment. One of the most powerful things you can do for someone with anxiety is simply to listen. Anxiety often brings a flood of racing thoughts and worries, and having someone to talk to can be a huge relief. When your loved one opens up to you about their anxiety, it's important to create a safe, non-judgmental space for them to express their feelings. Listening doesn't mean offering solutions or trying to fix their problems. Instead, it's about being fully present, allowing them to share their thoughts without fear of being dismissed or misunderstood. Acknowledge their feelings even if they seem irrational or exaggerated to you. Anxiety often heightens fears that may seem small or unlikely, but for the person experiencing them, those fears feel very real. Sometimes saying things like, "I understand this is hard for you," or "It sounds like you're really going through something tough," can help your loved one feel validated and supported. Avoid minimizing their feelings with phrases like, "It's not a big deal," or "You're overthinking it." These responses, while often well-intended, can make someone feel misunderstood and alone in their struggle. Offering reassurance but not dismissing. Reassurance can be helpful, but it needs to be balanced with understanding. When your loved one is caught in a cycle of anxious thoughts, offering calm reassurance that they are safe or that things will be okay can help ease some of their fears. However, it's important not to dismiss or invalidate their feelings by repeatedly telling them to just relax or stop worrying. Anxiety isn't something that can be switched off with logic or simple advice. While it's helpful to remind your loved one that they are safe or that the situation might not be as dire as their mind is telling them, it's equally important to recognize that their anxiety isn't something they can simply control. A good approach is to ask, "How can I best support you right now?" Or "What do you need from me in this moment?" Sometimes they may need reassurance, but other times they may just need someone to sit with them in their anxiety without offering solutions. Helping without taking over. When someone you care about is anxious, your first instinct might be to try to fix the situation for them. You may want to take over, make decisions for them, or help them avoid their triggers. While this comes from a place of love, it's important to strike a balance between helping and letting them face their anxiety. For example, if your loved one struggles with social anxiety, you might be tempted to make excuses for them or step in to speak on their behalf at social events. While this might provide temporary relief, it can also reinforce the idea that they can't handle the situation on their own, which could make the anxiety worse in the long run. Instead, offer to help in ways that empower them. If they're feeling anxious about an upcoming event, ask if there's anything specific you can do to support them, whether it's helping them prepare or offering to go with them for moral support. Encourage them to take small steps toward facing their fears, but let them decide what feels manageable. Respecting boundaries. Boundaries are essential when supporting someone with anxiety. While you want to help, it's important to respect their space and autonomy. Anxiety can be draining, and sometimes your loved one may need time alone to recharge or manage their feelings. Respecting their need for space doesn't mean you're abandoning them. It shows that you're honoring their process and allowing them to handle things in their own way. At the same time, be mindful of your own boundaries. Supporting someone with anxiety can be emotionally taxing, and it's important to take care of your own mental health as well. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to step back and take time for yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, and being mindful of your own well-being allows you to be a better source of support in the long run. Encouraging professional help. While your support can make a significant difference, there may be times when your loved one's anxiety feels too overwhelming to manage on their own, or even with your help. In these cases, encouraging them to seek professional help can be one of the most supportive things you can do. Therapy, counseling, or medication might offer them tools that go beyond what friends or family can provide. Approach the topic gently. You might say, "I've noticed that anxiety is really hard for you right now, and I think talking to a professional could help. Would you be open to exploring that?" Avoid pressuring them into seeking help, but offer to assist them in finding a therapist or making an appointment if they're open to it. It's also important to continue offering support even if they do seek professional help. Therapy or treatment is often a long-term process, and having a trusted person by their side can make all the difference. Celebrating small wins. Anxiety can make even the smallest tasks feel monumental. If your loved one takes a step toward facing their fears, no matter how small, it's worth celebrating. Whether they attend a social event they were anxious about or successfully manage their anxiety during a difficult situation, recognizing and acknowledging their progress can be incredibly motivating. Instead of focusing on what they should have done, focus on what they did do. Positive reinforcement, rather than criticism, helps build confidence and encourages them to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead feels daunting. Supporting someone with anxiety is about being there for them in ways that honor their experience, offering a mix of compassion, patience, and encouragement. You don't need to have all the answers, but by listening, respecting their boundaries, and encouraging them to take steps toward healing, you can be a valuable part of their journey toward managing anxiety. Chapter 10: Long-Term Solutions and Preventing Relapse. Managing anxiety is not a one-time effort. For many, it's a long-term journey of self-care, awareness, and continuous growth. The goal isn't to eliminate anxiety entirely. After all, it's a natural human emotion, but rather to develop strategies that keep it at a manageable level. As you move forward in your journey, it's essential to cultivate habits and coping mechanisms that support long-term emotional well-being and prevent relapse into more intense anxiety. In this final chapter, we'll explore how to build a life where anxiety has less control, and how to maintain that balance even when life's inevitable stressors arise. Creating a sustainable routine. One of the most effective ways to manage anxiety over the long term is to establish a routine that fosters stability and balance. Life can be unpredictable, but having regular habits and practices in place can help create a sense of normalcy, even in the face of stress. Start by making self-care a priority. This means finding daily practices that support your mental, emotional, and physical health. These don't have to be complex or time-consuming. They can be as simple as taking a morning walk, practicing mindfulness, or setting aside time to unwind at the end of the day. The consistency of these practices is what matters most. They act as anchors, helping to ground you when anxiety threatens to take over. Sleep, in particular, plays a crucial role in managing anxiety. Maintaining a regular sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, can help regulate your mood and energy levels. Lack of sleep can amplify feelings of anxiety, while a well-rested mind is better equipped to handle stress. Exercise is another cornerstone of a healthy routine. Whether it's yoga, swimming, running, or simply stretching, regular physical movement releases tension and promotes feelings of well-being. It doesn't have to be intense, but engaging in physical activity on a regular basis can greatly reduce anxiety over time. Mindful living, staying present. Incorporating mindfulness into your everyday life is a powerful way to manage anxiety in the long term. Anxiety often pulls you into the future, filling your mind with worries about what could happen. Mindfulness, by contrast, brings you back to the present moment. You don't have to meditate for hours to benefit from mindfulness. Simply practicing being present in the moment, whether you're eating, walking, or even washing dishes, can help calm anxious thoughts. Pay attention to your senses, the sights, sounds, and textures around you. This simple act of focusing on the present can pull you out of a worry spiral and help you reconnect with the here and now. Another way to stay mindful is to check in with yourself regularly. Ask yourself how you're feeling physically and emotionally. Are you carrying tension in your shoulders? Is your mind racing? By becoming more aware of how anxiety shows up in your body and mind, you can take proactive steps to address it before it becomes overwhelming. Developing emotional resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from stress or adversity, and it's a key component of long-term anxiety management. Developing emotional resilience doesn't mean avoiding challenges or stressors. It means building the inner strength to face them with greater calm and confidence. One way to build resilience is through reframing your thoughts. When faced with a stressful situation, try to shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on the worst-case scenario, ask yourself, what's the most likely outcome? Or what can I learn from this challenge? Over time, this practice can help you see stress as something that can be managed, rather than something to be feared. Another important aspect of resilience is self-compassion. When anxiety flares up, it's easy to be hard on yourself or feel frustrated that you're struggling again. But it's essential to treat yourself with kindness and understanding. Everyone has tough days, and setbacks are a normal part of the process. By being gentle with yourself and recognizing that recovery takes time, you can build the emotional resilience to keep moving forward. Identifying and managing triggers. Preventing relapse into more intense anxiety involves learning to identify and manage your triggers. Triggers are situations, thoughts, or events that can set off your anxiety. These might be specific, like public speaking, or more general, like changes in routine or major life transitions. The first step in managing triggers is to recognize them. Pay attention to when your anxiety tends to spike and what's happening around you at the time. Is it certain social situations? Stress at work? A lack of sleep? By understanding what triggers your anxiety, you can start to plan for how to handle those situations before they become overwhelming. Once you've identified your triggers, it's helpful to develop coping strategies for each one. For example, if social events tend to trigger your anxiety, you might plan to practice deep breathing or grounding techniques before going out. If work stress is a trigger, taking short breaks throughout the day to clear your mind can help. It's also important to remember that not all triggers can be avoided, and that's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate every potential source of anxiety but to learn how to respond to them in a way that reduces their impact on your life. Maintaining support systems. Anxiety can sometimes make you feel isolated, but maintaining a strong support system is one of the most powerful ways to prevent relapse. Surrounding yourself with people who understand your struggles and offer non-judgmental support can make a huge difference in how you manage your anxiety. This might include friends, family, or even support groups where you can connect with others who are going through similar challenges. Sharing your experiences and hearing from others can be incredibly validating and remind you that you're not alone in your journey. If you've been working with a therapist or counselor, maintaining regular sessions, even when your anxiety seems under control, can also provide ongoing support. Therapy isn't just for crises, it can be a space to continue exploring your thoughts and emotions, helping you stay on track and build resilience over time. Recognizing the signs of relapse. Even with the best strategies in place, it's possible to experience setbacks. Life can be unpredictable, and stressors may arise that trigger old patterns of anxiety. Recognizing the early signs of relapse can help you take action before things escalate. Some common signs of a relapse in anxiety might include increased irritability, difficulty sleeping, avoidance of certain situations, or a return of physical symptoms like a racing heart or muscle tension. When you notice these signs, it's important to address them early, rather than ignoring them in the hopes that they'll go away. Go back to the tools that have worked for you in the past. Whether it's mindfulness, breathing exercises, or reaching out for support, revisiting these techniques can help you regain control before anxiety becomes overwhelming. Finding balance and joy. While managing anxiety can sometimes feel like hard work, it's also important to focus on finding joy and balance in life. Anxiety doesn't have to define you, and it's possible to live a fulfilling, meaningful life even with occasional bouts of anxiety. Take time to engage in activities that bring you joy, whether it's a hobby, spending time with loved ones, or simply being in nature. Cultivating a sense of purpose and passion in your life can help shift the focus away from anxiety and toward what truly matters to you. Finding balance also means being mindful of how much time and energy you dedicate to managing anxiety. While self-care is essential, it's equally important to focus on the positive aspects of your life and the progress you've made. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small, and remember that each step forward is a step toward long-term well-being. By incorporating these long-term strategies, you can reduce the likelihood of anxiety taking over and build a life that feels more balanced and joyful. While anxiety may still show up from time to time, you now have the tools to manage it in a healthy and empowering way. As we conclude this journey through understanding anxiety, remember that progress takes time. Be patient with yourself, stay connected to your support systems, and continue practicing the habits that help you feel grounded and calm. Life with anxiety is still full of potential, and with the right tools you can move forward with confidence. Conclusion: moving forward with confidence. Anxiety can feel like a heavy burden, but by taking the time to understand it, acknowledge its impact, and learn how to manage it, you're already on the path toward healing and resilience. Throughout this book, we've explored what anxiety is, why it happens, and most importantly, how it can be managed through a variety of approaches. From medical treatments and therapy to holistic practices and self-help strategies, you now have a toolkit of options to help you navigate anxiety in ways that work best for you. It's important to remember that living with anxiety doesn't mean you're limited. Anxiety is something that can be managed, and in many cases, it can be the catalyst for personal growth and greater self-awareness. You've learned that it's okay to take small steps, and that progress isn't always linear. Some days will be better than others, and setbacks are part of the process. But every time you choose to practice mindfulness, reach out for support, or employ coping strategies, you are taking a step toward a healthier, more balanced life. As you move forward, remember that you are not alone. Anxiety is something that many people experience, and there is no shame in seeking help, whether through a therapist, a doctor, or a supportive friend. In fact, seeking help is one of the most courageous things you can do. It shows that you're committed to living a life that isn't dominated by fear or worry. Living with anxiety doesn't have to be about fighting against yourself. Instead, it can be about learning to understand and live alongside your anxiety in a way that gives you control and freedom. The tools you've learned, whether it's breathing techniques, grounding exercises, or reframing negative thoughts, are there to support you whenever anxiety begins to feel overwhelming. It's also important to take time to celebrate your progress, no matter how small it seems. Every step you take toward managing your anxiety is a victory. Whether it's speaking up in a meeting despite your social anxiety, or simply getting through a day without letting worry take over, these are moments worth acknowledging. By focusing on your strengths and what you're capable of, you build the confidence to continue moving forward, even in the face of challenges. As you continue on this journey, keep exploring what works for you. Anxiety management is not a one-size-fits-all process, and it may take time to find the right balance. Stay curious and open to new strategies, and don't be afraid to adapt as your needs change. Your journey toward understanding and managing anxiety is unique to you, and that's something to embrace. Most of all, remember to be kind to yourself. Anxiety is not a reflection of weakness, but rather a part of being human. The more you practice self-compassion, the easier it becomes to navigate anxious moments without being overwhelmed by them. Treat yourself with the same care and patience that you would offer a friend going through a tough time. Moving forward, you have the tools, the understanding, and the resilience to live a life that is not defined by anxiety, but enhanced by your ability to manage it. With each day, you'll find that you can face anxiety with greater confidence, and that freedom from its grip is not only possible but within reach. Take heart in knowing that anxiety doesn't have to dictate your life. You have the power to manage it, grow from it, and move forward with confidence and hope.